Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Anu. I'm currently working as a software engineer at Google. And prior to that, I have done a couple of internships at big tech companies. So I have interned at X, Intuit, Google. And in this video, I want to talk about some of the dark truths. Well, maybe not dark truths, but also some of the bad things about working at big tech companies. So, personally, about me, I rejected an offer from a startup which was paying me 2.5 lakh per month to go ahead and intern at big tech companies. But looking back, I want to evaluate whether that decision was worth it. So, in this video, we're going to talk about 5 dark truths or 5 hidden truths that people don't generally tell you about interning at big tech companies. But I feel that this is something really important that you should know. So, in future, when you're trying to evaluate whether you should go ahead and work for a startup or whether you should go ahead and work for a big tech company, you can make a sound decision. So you might have seen a lot of videos where people talk about the perks of working at big tech companies, like the free food or the games that you see people playing, or even the people. But there are a lot of other things that they are not telling you, and I feel that I should be the one telling you this. So without further ado, let's dive right into the video. Before moving on to the video, I want to request you to please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. And that would mean a lot to me and motivate me to keep continuing and making a lot more videos. And now let's dive right in. So the first con, or I would say a disadvantage of working at big tech companies. So the first con or the first disadvantage of working at big tech companies is that there are not enough training. So what I mean by that is, like, the internship period generally at these companies is about 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or even if you're going for a 6 months internship, the time that you actually get to train and the time that you actually get to learn a lot about the tools and technologies is very less. So in most of the companies, you'll get only about 1 or 2 weeks to learn about these tools and technologies. And honestly, that's not enough to learn about any language or any framework that you have. And this is not saying that there aren't enough resources. The resources are a lot, but the time that you actually get to solve these or look into this and learn more about these technologies is very less, because you're supposed to go ahead and complete your project. You're supposed to go ahead and start doing the actual task, picking up some real tasks, and the time that you can actually get to learn these technologies and tools is very less. So even though at the end you can say that I probably worked on 5 to 6 technologies and frameworks in the internship, even you know that you didn't actually gain a lot of deeper knowledge into these frameworks. So I feel that there isn't enough learning, there isn't enough training, and you actually cannot get an in-depth knowledge about all of these languages and frameworks. This is actually true even when you are going ahead and doing a full-time job as well. There are so many technologies now with AI coming up, and every day there's software engineering is the fastest moving field there is, and there are so many technologies and frameworks that are coming up every week, and honestly you don't have the time to learn all of that. Your company will provide you with the tools and the resources to learn that, but honestly you have to take time out of that 8 hours of your work life, and then you can go ahead and learn all of that. So unless you're putting in that extra 3 or 4 hours after your work life, then unless you're doing that, you won't have enough time to learn about these tools and technologies, because people are not going to give you that time. So even during your onboarding, you have to focus on learning about all of this frameworks, technologies, so that you can ramp up faster. But honestly, I feel like through these internships, you probably won't get to know a lot about these technologies in deeper. And you have to study about that later on, or probably take out time, extra time outside of your 8 hours to learn about these tools and technologies. And that would be the first con of doing an internship at a big tech company. The second dark truth about doing an internship at a big tech company is that there is a lot of competition for getting a return offer. And trust me when I say this, when you're doing an internship at a startup, there'll probably be a few amount of interns, right? So at max you'll have 10 or 20 interns, but when you're interning at a big tech company like Google, you'll see that there are about 300 or 400 interns, and obviously no company will hire that amount of interns for their full-time role as well. So there is a lot of competition to get a return offer, and most of the time that does create a lot of anxiety and even competition among the interns. So that's not just saying that you will actually be competing with the other interns, but you will feel that there there is that kind of competition in the environment. You'll feel that others are discussing their lines of code. They're probably talking about how good they are with their team, or they're probably talking about the kind of project that they have got, whether it's an impactful project or whether it'll land in production or not. And honestly, those factors also affect your chances of getting a return offer. So I feel that interning at big tech companies is very hectic. And to be honest, when I was interning at Google, I had a lot of anxiety whether about I would get a return offer or not. So even though I was enjoying my internship experience and was probably enjoying all of that free food and the games, that stress and anxiety was always at the back of my mind that the competition is a lot. So nowadays, these companies like Amazon hires thousands of interns, but the return offer that they give is very less. The ratio is very less. And that is becoming true for many other companies as well. So that's a con of doing an internship at a big tech company, is that the chances of getting a return offer is very less, and there is a lot of competition as well. So even though you're friends with your interns, you know at the end of the day all of you are competitors and you are competing for that head count and you're competing for that seat. So headcount is about how many open positions does the company have. And let's say that there are about 300 interns, but the headcount is just about 100. So all of you are going to be competing for that 100 headcounts. And honestly, that does spoil the internship experience a bit, but also that is what the internship experience is all about. So that is the second dark truth of doing an internship at a big tech company, is that there's a lot of competition among interns. The third dark truth of doing an internship at a big tech company is that sometimes the rules around what you have to do to get a return offer is not exactly clear. I know personally that I know few interns who did everything right. They even got peer bonuses. Peer bonuses are a kind of reward that people give to each other at Google. So when somebody does a good job, you give them a small amount of cash bonus, which is also known as a peer bonus. And honestly, if you're getting peer bonuses, that means that you're doing a really good job. So I personally know that there were interns who got peer bonuses as well, and they honestly did a lot of good work, but still they did not get the return offer. So sometimes the rules around what you have to do to get a return offer is not exactly clear. And again, that spoils the internship experience a bit, because even though you know that you have done all of the code, you have done all the code changes, you have written tons of lines of code, and you have also completed your project, you still cannot be sure whether you'll get a return offer or not. And honestly, that is actually a con of working at a big tech company. If you're interning at a startup, the rules are going to be pretty clear and everybody is really communicative as well. But these big tech companies actually don't have this formal or set of rules that you have to do, or some eligibility criteria for getting a return offer, and that creates a lot of ambiguity, and the rules are pretty vague, through which you will probably not even understand whether you're doing the right thing or not. So you need to solely rely on the feedback of your mentors, and at the end, when you're getting a return offer, the mentors actually do not actually have a complete say in the hiring process. So again, that creates a lot of stress around whether you're doing the right thing or not, or whether you'll get a return offer or not. And that is something that you can realize only after you have done the internship and whether you get or not. So yeah, that creates a lot of stress, anxiety. And personally for me as well, I got the return offer from Google after a very long time. So I spent after my internship ended, about 3 months later is when I got the return offer. And till then, that 3 month period, I would say, was full of anxiety and stress for me, because whether I'll get it or not. And I feel that is a common practice nowadays in a lot of big tech companies. And that really does spoil your internship experience a bit. The fourth con of doing an internship at a big tech company is that you never know what kind of project you'll be getting. Or forget about the project, you never even know whether you'll be getting the team that you want or not. So earlier, when these companies used to hire a lot less interns, they used to take the preferences of the interns and what team they want to intern at into consideration. But all of that has stopped now when they've started hiring a lot of interns. So what happens is that the team that you get or the project that you get is totally random, and you never know whether you're getting the right project or the right team or not. So let's say your interest is in maps, but you probably will get something in cloud, or you want to work something in Gen AI or in ML field, but still you'll get something which is related to some other team. So you're probably going to GPay, or let's say just any other team. And that is true not just for Google, but for many other big tech companies as well. So that is the fourth con of doing an internship at a big tech company, is that the kind of project that you get, you have no say over that. And the way these projects are chosen is that each team has to complete a certain amount of projects. And if they're not able to complete those projects, that's when they request for an intern to come ahead and do that project. So the projects that you're actually working on is backlog projects that the team could not work on. So in most of the cases, the projects are going to be not that interesting. But if you're lucky, you might as well get an interesting project as well. But at the same time, if you are interning at a startup, you will see that the projects that you get are all equally impactful. So the way the startups actually give projects is that they are very all impactful and they'll all be landing into production. But in big tech companies, most of the intern projects never land into production, and you'll probably never even see your project being used by end users. And that personally for me is a bit of a con, because if I'm working on something, if I'm coding on something, I would like to see end users using that as well. And as developers, we do want to see that. But at big tech companies, you will most probably not see that. And it's possible that the project you get is not as interesting as you thought it would be. So personally for me, like when I interned at Intuit, I got a very good project where I was working on Apache Kafka, and even at X, I was working at Scala as well. And that was a totally new language for me. But at few other internships, I was given a project that was related to building a testing framework. So you can imagine you're being hired as a software engineering intern, but at the end, you are supposed to do a testing project as well. And honestly, that does spoil your internship experience a bit. And it's nothing even related to your skill or what you have put in your resume. So this process of getting a team or getting a project in big tech companies is very random. And the kind of experience that you get while coding, while building, is all going to be dependent at the end on the project that you're supposed to do. So nobody tells you about this, but this is actually true, that you get random projects, and if your interest is in something else and you get a project which is totally not related to that, your internship experience will be spoiled a little bit. And on top of that, the return offer that you get will most probably be in the same team. And switching teams, you have to wait for about an year before you can switch teams. So that is another thing that people don't tell you. And if you are making a choice between interning either at a startup or at these big tech companies, you should know about all of these factors as well. So with that, I come to the end of my fourth point, which is the project that you get is going to be most of the times random. The fifth and the final con of doing an internship at a big tech company is that in most of the cases, you don't get to express a true, authentic version of yourself. Now, let me clarify this a bit. So, as we know, all of us are different personality types. Some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts, and some of us are ambivert. These people working at these companies, they're supposed to deal with everyone equally. So you cannot have biases against everyone. But sometimes, in most of the cases, that is not true. At the end of the day, we are all humans and we all judge people in some or the other way. And in these internships, if you are someone who is shy or an introvert and you don't actually communicate well with your team members or teammates, that will be taken against you in a negative way. And that is for something I personally feel is lacking in these companies, that even if you are a good coder, even if you are an excellent software engineer, you need to focus a lot on these personality aspects as well. So you need to be good at communicating as well. So even if you're shy or you're an introvert, you need to leave all of that aside and focus on how you can communicate and interact with your team. And sometimes with that, you might be hiding your authentic version. So we would all want to be our true and authentic versions of ourselves. And even though there are lots of training around removing biases and removing all of these judgments, you're going to feel that that is actually true in real life. So that is something that even I realized, that you need to go ahead and push yourself a lot more. You need to be a lot more interactive than you normally would be, because that is what people expect from you. And even though you are supposed to not do that, you're supposed to be your own true authentic version, you'll find that these companies actually do look for that aspect as well. So the fifth point is that you will probably not get to express a true authentic version of yourself, and you do have to communicate, you have to go out of your comfort zone and start talking to people. So even if that is something that does not naturally come to you, you have to learn to do that. And With that, I come to the end of my fifth point, which is you probably don't get to express a true version of yourself. So, with that, we come to the end of the video. I just want to say that these were some dark truths that people don't tell you, but all in all, these internships teach you a lot. Working at a company which is a big tech company will teach you so much about software engineering, and those 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or 6 months of time is going to be the best time that you have. And doing an internship, doing real life work experience through these companies is the only way that you can be prepared for your full-time role, or you can actually get to experience what a life of a software engineer looks like. So even though these were some very dark and probably bad truths, but it's honest, and at the same time I would say the cons are lesser but the pros are way more. So you get to learn a lot, you do get to enjoy the perks of working at such companies, and the most important part, you get to be a software engineer for some time, and that will teach you so much more than any courses or anything that you take, right? So college, as we all know, is not going to give you that practical experience. So these companies, they're doing a great job by hiring interns and giving you that practical experience. So don't get demotivated by these things, but just keep in mind when you're going for an internship or whether you are preparing for an internship, you should probably have these things as well in the back of your mind so that you aren't a little bit disappointed after you get into an internship. So be prepared through all of this, and I hope that you like this video. So if you like this video, do make sure to subscribe, like, and share with your friends, and also comment about what are some things that you personally faced or what are some things that you would like to learn how to deal with, and I'll make sure that I make a video on that as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.